Week 2 of OTAs, Miami Dolphins fans. It is here. And so am I. It's Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network, recapping practice session number 4 of these OTA sessions. We actually, if you were wondering, well, what the hell happened to number 3? Media wasn't allowed to that one. We didn't get any reports. So yeah, late last week, did not have a recap of practice session number 3. However, number 4 was, we'll say it was highlighted by the final play of the practice session, which was, let's not even bury the lead. It was a deep bomb touchdown from Tua Tagovailoa to one of those rookie wide receivers. And you know what? We won't even keep that a secret. It was the 7th round pick. It was Tahj Washington out of USC, who we obviously learned a little bit more here this previous April when we selected him in the 2024 NFL draft. We've got video from the Dolphins social media team that we are going to include in today's video. So we will get to that in a minute. But before we jump into all of the day's actions, I want to hear from you. Your thoughts on the Tua 40-yard touchdown pass, your thoughts on anything from today's report. Go ahead, drop them thoughts into the comments. And if you haven't gotten subscribed yet, make sure you are doing that as well. Thanks, as always, to all of those who have already gotten subscribed. I do have one little nugget, too. I will save that for the end of today's video because, like I said, I don't want to bury the lead any further. We've talked about the final play of today's practice session in a session that we're reading these reports, hearing from all the writers that were there. Very sharp day for Tua, and we'll get to this in a minute as well, but a little bit of a depleted roster. But let's just jump right into this bomb throw right here. Nice little 40-yard flick there as Tahj Washington catches the ball as he crosses the goal line there. We'll watch it one more time. It's a quick video. And granted, yeah, it is OTAs. We saw Tua connecting on a bunch of deep balls last OTAs, last training camp, all season, essentially. But the couple of things that I think we need to keep an eye on here throughout this offseason is all that work that he's doing with the new quarterback coaches, the Tom House, the John Beck, just working on getting those hips aligned, right? Making that release a little bit quicker, release a little bit higher, because you think about when Tua came into the NFL from Alabama, it was a fairly clean prospect. Obviously, some things he needed to work on, and the arm strength was questioned, but it's not necessarily how far can Tua throw the ball. It's more so, can you get it into these tight windows? Well, we've seen a little bit of improvement in that, but I think we're going to see even another step forward in that as he continues to really just work on tinkering a couple of things, the mechanics, that getting the hips right, getting the hips aligned with the arms and everything, making sure that everything that they've got going on just helps him continue to evolve as a quarterback. Because what did he do last offseason? He gained the weight. He learned how to fall. He kind of perfected his craft in that sense. Well, now he's shedding the weight. He's kind of already got the falling thing going for him. So what's he want to do now? Well, he wants to be more efficient with his movements, getting from the first read to the second read to the third read, and then not having any lapse of arm talent, arm speed, getting the ball out quickly. Once he sees that throw, he wants to be able to make it. So I think that's really what he's getting a lot of out of this, kind of like a third-party quarterback coach coming into play and helping him with this. And the results right there. Like I said, it's OTAs. We're talking about 7-on-7 drills. It's not the world's biggest deal, but it's just kind of something cool and neat to be able to see, and to be able to see that work come into play, and then what your finished product even looks like. So we talked about the 40-yard touchdown to Tahj Washington. Love the play, obviously. Tua, like I said, pretty sharp day in practice overall. Only did some 7-on-7 works. It was Mike White and Skylar Thompson that got some of the 11 works today. But Tua also connected on a deep ball to Eric Ezukama. They also singled out a perfectly placed crossing pattern to River Craycraft, which presented itself with a lot of yards after the catch opportunity. It was a probable touchdown by all accounts. We'll go kind of position by position as we do with these recaps of all the reports that we came in today. This really wasn't actually from today because Achane was not spotted at Tuesday's practice. However, I was told over the weekend that in that practice session that the media wasn't allowed to be at, he was lining up, and even before that session, he's been lining up at wide receiver. So he's not just taking those snaps out of the backfield, not just getting catches out of the backfield, but lining up at wide receiver as well quite a bit last week during OTA. So another thing for us to keep an eye on. One other thing that found out from the weekend, Jaylen Wright, our rookie running back that we moved into the 4th round for, took him out of Tennessee. He actually wore a camera on his helmet. Remember when that was a big deal from Tua last offseason? Well, now they're incorporating it into other positions as well. And Jaylen Wright was one of the running backs that was wearing it. And the team can basically watch the tape, review what he's seeing as he's hitting these holes in the zone blocking scheme. So you know what? You got the technology. I love that they're doing that. And man, all of the reports so far from camp as they relate to Jaylen Wright have been pretty good. He did lose his lunch in that one OTA session, but you know what? Get acclimated to the heat. That's what we're doing here. Travis Wingfield will move on to the wide receivers. He noted Eric Ezukanma once again, just continuing to be intrigued. I think the words he used was he can sink into his routes and explode out of them. He's going to be stronger than most defensive backs he sees. He made a bunch of plays throughout the day. And that's kind of been status quo for Eric Ezukanma. He's been an offseason warrior. He always wins training camp, OTAs, preseason. Let's see if it translates. Because, man, that we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum as well, so I won't spend much time on it. But that battle at that wide receiver position, when you got guys like Tahj Washington coming from the 7th round and making these kind of plays, you got Malik Washington, who the team has high hopes for. That's going to be a battle at wide receiver. So, yeah, Eric Ezukanma, he's going to have to make these plays when his number is called. Speaking of Malik Washington, was told that his speed, his route running, the separation that he's getting on his routes is actually further ahead than where the team anticipated it being at this point in time. Now, I did read about a drop that he had on a deep slant today from Tua, so you got to take the bad with the good, I guess. But from all accounts, it sounds like Malik Washington is living up to those expectations they had for him, if not even already exceeding them on a couple of the things, the route running, the speed, the separation that he's getting on those routes. And I should clarify as well, some of these receivers getting a little extra run today. No Tyreek on Tuesday, no Jalen Waddle, no Odell Beckham Jr. Tight ends, no Jonnu Smith today either, but Tanner Connor noted for having a productive day on the receiving end. And we talk about guys that have that uphill battle. He's got to go up against Jonnu Smith now, Durham, Smythe, Jody, Fortson, Julian Hill, who Mike McDaniel really likes. That's going to be a battle as well. But hey, good to see Tanner Connor, another former wide receiver. They wanted to get one of these guys. They were bound to determine when they took Elijah Higgins a couple of years ago in the draft. It's like they wanted one of these like used to be wide receivers to be able to fill in and be that kind of mismatch at tight end, which was kind of funny because you're like, well, you had Mike Gesicki. He just couldn't block. So you want someone that can be this do-it-all guy. But it's nice to see a guy like Tanner Connor making a couple of plays when his number is called. Well, like I said, uphill battle to say the least. Offensive line, Liam Eichenberg chatted with the media a little bit today. He said he's working on being the best center that he can possibly be while Aaron Brewer is on the sideline for these OTA practices, which is interesting. And obviously that's kind of who I thought would likely be taking those snaps at center. I found it curious. And also another thing that you kind of assume, but I'm glad Liam said it. He said once Aaron Brewer gets back and is manning that center position, it really kind of sounds, at least as of today, Brewer's going to be your guy at center. Liam Eichenberg is going to slide back over and get those reps at guard. My assumption, connecting dots, likely getting the snaps mostly at right guard. A couple notes here on the defensive side of the ball. Grayson Murphy credited with batting a Skylar Thompson pass down at the line of scrimmage. I was actually also told over the weekend that the team's kind of doing like hypothetical 53-man roster predictions and everything. If they had to cut the roster to 53 essentially today, Murphy would have the best chance of making it of all of the undrafted free agents. So he's been standing out in these practices so far this offseason. I found this interesting. Travis Wingfield of the Drive Time podcast noted Channing Tindall as his player of the day, saying that his play speed popped. Another beat writer had Channing Tindall on coverage on 2 consecutive incompletions thrown by Tua Tagovailoa as well. It's very interesting. It's good. I'll take any positive news from Channing Tindall that will come in. I'll be happy with that. But we talk about these like mock roster predictions. Do one yourself right now and see if you've got room for Channing Tindall, which, yeah, is a little bit of a slight to him, but at the same time kind of speaks volume of the roster that we've created. We're not in 2018, 2019 anymore when these just kind of fringe guys are shoo-ins to make it. You're going to have to earn your way onto this roster. So, hey, Tindall, you got to continue to stack these days together. Travis Wingfield also noted that Chop Robinson shut down a handful of plays purely just from his get off, being able to punch that the offensive line, get in there, blow that play up at the line of scrimmage. That's exactly what we saw on his tape at Penn State. And hey, transferred onto the field here Tuesday at OTAs. He said that Chop Robinson versus Austin Jackson was the most competitive matchup of the day. So hey, can't argue with that whatsoever. I want everyone to stay healthy, but so I get a little nervous when I see like best versus best going, and this isn't best versus best, but it's in the category of some of our better players or players we hope to be our better players. But at the end of the day, you get Chop Robinson going against the likes of Teron Armstead, Austin Jackson. I like what we got going here, and the opportunity that he's going to have to learn. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch throughout the rest of OTAs, minicamp, training camp as well. Let's see what we got here. Oh, for the secondary, Jevon Holland was your wearer of the team's orange practice jersey. Obviously, that's stemming likely back from practice 3, which we did not have the access to. The other thing from the secondary, another thing I learned over the weekend, the team is going to experiment with Kendall Fuller and Cam Smith playing on the boundary. And what they're going to do with that is let Jalen Ramsey kind of serve as that third safety. Now, this is not going to be the base defense. This wouldn't be like a typical thing, but it's something that they're experimenting with in an attempt to at least let Jalen Ramsey try to play to his full potential, because Jalen Ramsey, he's a great boundary corner. You can work him inside. You can play him back at safety. You can stick him in the box. He's at his best when he can play all over the place and the defense isn't just going to know, oh, this is his role on this. If you can let him roam, the intelligence that he has, the instincts that he has, the amount of coaching that this kind of guy can do on the field, absolutely love it. So, hey, if Cam Smith can continue to take those steps forward, be trusted on the boundary alongside a guy like Kendall Fuller, let Kader Kohu remain in the slot. I love how that opens things up for Jalen Ramsey. So check out for that and some future reports as well. We'll see how that goes throughout the offseason here. One of the last nugget here to wrap things up is told over the weekend that the team would like the idea of speeding up the communication, getting the play into the huddle a little bit quicker. On average, they'd like to get it to Tua about 5 to 7 seconds quicker than what they did in the previous year. Now, the hope is that that'll give Tua some flexibility to audible at the line of scrimmage, maybe on a more frequent basis. I don't remember the exact stats that I was given on this, but when Tua audibled last season, and it was a very, very alarmingly small sample size, the play resulted in either a touchdown or chunk yardage more often than not. I'll have to see if I can get those stats another time. It was just an incredible amount of production when Tua was given that flexibility. So the idea is that a lot of these guys, Tua, Mostert, Waddle, Hill, they're in year 3 of this offense now. So they're processing things quicker. They have a better understanding of the offense as a whole. We have a couple offensive linemen that have at least been there throughout the duration as well. So speeding things up, giving the opportunity to at least call an audible if Tua were to see it at the line of scrimmage, just yet another example of the evolution of this offense. So add that to your category with a third wide receiver, with getting running backs activated into the pass game, with targeting the tight ends a little bit more. Look potentially, if this works this offseason, for maybe the play call to get into Tua a little bit quicker, give him a little bit more flexibility, freedom to call audibles at the line of scrimmage. I will kill it there for today, Miami Dolphins fans. Thank you all once again for your time. I think they have a practice session again Wednesday. Not sure if the media is allowed to that one or not. But if they are, we will be back to recap it. But until then, Miami Dolphins fans, have a good night and fins up.